Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome into our ESPN studios for this latest edition of Futbol Americas. Look at this suited and booted crew. They even forced me to wear a blazer today. Kasey Keller is here. Shaka Hislop is joining us. And Herc just managed to put a blazer over his T-shirt. But usually, he's my casual companion. But now...
Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow, yes. There's going to be a special episode of Futbol Americas tomorrow where we will be reacting to everything that we find out at the World Cup draw. We're also going to be talking about it in today's show, but we also have two very exclusive interviews with none other than Luis Suarez and Lionel Messi. You're not going to want to miss those. But first, like I said, it's all about the World Cup draw. We are now less than 24 hours away from the big event that's taking place in Washington, D.C. And now we have to welcome in our man who's always our eyes and ears on the ground for us, Jeff Carlisle, who claims he's warm, but he's looking a bit cold there in Washington. But I know Jeff can't handle the cold. He's hanging on for dear life and staying up late for us. But Jeff, like I said, less than 24 hours away now from the World Cup draw. What's the vibe like there in Washington?
I mean, there's a real sense of anticipation here. You know, a lot of these teams, I mean, 42 of them at any rate so far, have been battling and scraping and trying to acquire every point they could get on their goal to, or on the road towards their goal of making the World Cup. But, you know, now the waiting game has been going on for quite a while now. And so, you know, there is a lot of, I don't want to say anxiety, but people are eager, teams are eager to see who they're going to play. That goes for the United States as well. You know, we'll see who ends up in their group, Group D. And but yeah, there's just a real sense of anticipation and a lot of excitement. And you know, all will be known tomorrow.
All will be known tomorrow, indeed. And as Jeff mentioned, there's a lot of anticipation for the U.S. men's national team to see who ends up in their group. But I've asked these guys to do their homework and give us the nightmare scenarios, but also the dream groups for the U.S. men's national teams. And we're going to start off with Herc.
Oh.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start off? You want to start off positive or negative?
Let's start off positive.
Okay. What would be an easy group is what we're saying here. What would be an ideal group for the United States men's national team? All right, what did I go with? I went South Africa. I went Iran and New Zealand. New Zealand, with all due respect to my friends in New Zealand, that'd be a game that any team wants to face in this World Cup. Iran, well, Christian Pulisic already scored with his right testicle, might as well make it do with his left testicle. And South Africa, I think out of all the other teams out of that pot, maybe one of the most accessible. So this would be a dream scenario for, and something else here. I'm trying to avoid traditional powers, and I'm trying to avoid teams with mass followings, with fan bases that show out, that could create a potential home field advantage for their teams. So off of these factors, my little power rankings told me this would be the easiest group.
I love the music that we've given it as well. I mean, like, it's like a Disney movie. All right, well, let's see if we can talk about the nightmare now, because I want to hear what the music is.
All right, this is doomsday scenario. I don't care who you are. If you're Argentina, defending world champion, France, the best pool of players in the world, Spain, Lamine Yamal, England, if you're one of the top four, I don't care who you are. You don't want to face Morocco. Yeah. You do not want to face this Moroccan team. You've seen what they did in 2022 World Cup.
See what they've done to the youth teams.
The youth teams at all levels for the U.S. they beat them. But last World Cup, they're in the group with the CONCACAF champion in Canada, Golden Generation in Belgium, and a World Cup runner-up in the previous edition in Croatia. And then they went through Spain, Portugal, bowed out to France in a dignified manner. You don't want to play against these guys. They're a tough team to break down. And then, does anybody want to play against Norway, Erling Haaland, Odegaard, Sorloth, that type of attack? No, you don't. And I don't care what you say. 2 straight World Cups that they've not qualified. If Italy qualifies for this tournament, I don't care what the problems are in Italy, plus those followings. This is a disaster scenario for the U.S. men's national team. You want to avoid this group.
Now is the time where we get to pick apart Herc's picks. Kasey, what did you think of his dream group, let me say? Do you feel as confident that the USA can get past all those teams together?
The only thing I didn't like was the Iran draw. Okay. Simply just because of the geopolitical drama that comes with it. I had to deal with that in '98. The guys had to deal with it a little less so in Qatar. But
does it stay in the players' minds?
it's not necessarily the players' minds, but it's everything that comes around.
It was a
the
little bit more
scene.
fresh in '98.
Well, you mean because what happened a few months ago with the U.S. and Iran? So you want to deal with that? So I think the State Department would prefer to probably keep these two apart from each other.
To that point, I'm with you on Iran.
Yeah.
And it's not so much a case of it being an issue for the U.S. players, but for the Iranian players. This literally is a make or break of the World Cup. You beat the U.S., you could get knocked out. You could get knocked out on the group stage for all their care as long as you get that result. So I'm with Kasey on that.
Shaka, I still run into Iranians who can't talk enough about the result in '98.
Yeah.
Still. So I feel you.
I think that's the country to avoid.
A little PTSD, okay.
Yeah. Yes, a lot of PTSD, actually.
Let me just get Jeff's comments on what you think of Herc's picks for Dream and Nightmare groups for the U.S. Jeff?
Well, as luck would have it, Herc has picked the exact same 3 teams for his Nightmare group that I did. So, I really can't pick apart that decision.
All right, well, that's a spoiler alert there. We're going to get to Jeff's groups in a bit then. So let me just actually go to Kasey now. Kasey, the floor is yours.
Okay.
Starting with your dream group.
Okay, you got to pop it back up on the screen just so I
You
can
can't really, with the music and all.
remember exactly what my choice was. I had an Uzbekistan in there as well, but then I realized that they couldn't play with Australia. But then I wanted
Asia,
because Asia versus Asia. But then I felt I think we'll match up well against Australia. Scotland I did for a couple reasons. One, I think they've never gotten out of a group stage of a World Cup. When they had great teams, they couldn't get out of a group stage. So there's that. And I think there's just going to be such a joy of qualifying. And then I also want to have a really hot day where they play. Because I've played with enough Scottish players that if it's over 70 degrees, it's the hottest match they've ever played.
For sure.
So get them in some humidity or some places. I mean, I know if they're playing the U.S., they very well could be playing in Seattle. And so that could be one of those days where it's hot or it's not hot. But yeah, that was my pick with Scotland. And then like New Zealand, no disrespect to New Zealand, but yeah, it's one of those teams that I think most groups would be happy to be a part of.
All right, well now let's switch focus and go to Kasey's Nightmare draw.
Switzerland, obviously, we didn't match up really well against them this last summer. So I felt that would not go very well. Nobody wants Norway. That speaks for itself. And then Ghana, simply because we have not done well. We beat them the last time, and maybe that would give them that little bit more motivation since we beat them the last time we matched up against them in a World Cup, after they had beaten us a couple times.
All right, guys, you want to weigh in on that?
This one or the positive one?
Either.
I would not want to play against Scotland. First time since 1998, they're back at a World Cup. They're going to come in massive numbers. I go back to the U.S. has never been a home team in its own country.
The Scots travel well.
They travel very well. First time
Kilts
since
and drinks
1998.
and all.
Australia's a tricky team because this is a team that had a spell of almost 11, 12 games undefeated.
But who are they playing against to be undefeated?
The Japans of the world, the South Koreas of the world. What I'm trying to say
But
is,
even last World Cup, they did test Argentina.
last World Cup, if not for Lisandro Martinez's goal line clearance, we're talking about they send that game into overtime. It's a tricky team, and style makes fights. I don't think it's a good style for the U.S. men's national team. I think it's a gritty, it's a defensive, pragmatic team that could complicate things. This U.S. men's national team not exactly shown the ability to break a lot of teams down. It's not something I really like. New Zealand speaks for itself.
We love our Kiwis, though. We definitely do. Shaka?
No, I agree. I think you avoid Australia for the reasons that Herc just articulated. I think they are always a tough nut to crack, particularly at the World Cup level. And then in terms of the easy draw, I'm pretty sure I have it very similar to Kasey, with one exception. So I'm not going to be overly...
Good, exactly. Well, let's get Jeff's opinion then. Jeff, where do you stand on this little Australia debate? Do you think that they would make an easier opponent, or, as Shaka said, they're a tough nut to crack? Well, would you rather avoid them in the group?
Yeah, I mean, I would veer towards what Shaka's saying. I mean, I think Australia historically has always been just a very difficult team to get by. I mean, they always seem to rise to the occasion. You know, they've had some great moments. I mean, I'm thinking back to to Tim Cahill and the like. And yeah, so I would think they would be a tougher team to face rather than someone else in Asia.
And get your picks now, starting with your dream job. Well, you're living your dream job. Your dream draw for the U.S. men's national team.
Well, I'm assuming that they're going to get a European team in there just because, there's 16 of them and they have to spread them out equally. So not that Austria is the easiest team, but I just think relatively speaking, compared to other European sides, they will be a better matchup for the U.S. And then, you've got New Zealand and you've got South Africa. I mean, I think those are the teams that are ranked lower down in their respective pots. And although I think it was in 2010 that New Zealand drew all 3 of their games. So, they have some pedigree of doing decently at World Cups. But I think when you compare them to the other sides throughout the rest of the draw, those are the 3 easiest games.
All right, what about your nightmare draw now?
Well, as I said earlier, somehow Herc and I ended up with the same trio. No, not at all. I think Morocco, I think Norway, and then I think if Italy gets through, their path in the playoff, I just think that would be a really rough, threesome of games to have to square off against, or opponents that they'd have to square off against. And Norway, they absolutely strolled through qualifying and they beat Italy twice, I believe. So, but I think Italy's going to get over their mental block of qualifying for the World Cup. I think they're going to make it this time, and I think you can count on them having incredible support. And we'll see about Morocco. How well they travel. But everyone remembers the support they had in the last World Cup. Granted, they didn't have very far to go, but the fans that do show up are really passionate and really support their team. So I think those are the 3 hardest teams that the U.S. could face.
I mean, listening to Jeff and the music in the background with this group, it's Stormtroopers and Darth Vader next.
We are Disney. Nobody want to weigh in on Jeff's picks?
I agree 100% with them.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah.
What is that? What do you think of Austria then?
I don't.
Against Austria?
I don't mind Austria. I don't mind Austria one bit.
If you have to have a European team,
yes.
You go for the Austrian.
Austria would be one of the ones that you'd be like, okay, knowing that they still on their day could cause you a lot the problems.
Yeah, they got a few attacks.
The European teams usually cause you
really,
problems.
cause some problems. But given that they're a European team, th're the lesser of the evils.
All right. Well, last but certainly never least, Shaka Hislop.
I'm certainly in terms of the dream draw, I'm not too dissimilar from Jeff. I go for Austria as the European team that you want to get. Qatar, who I am not at all convinced about, 6th ranked team in Asia, and then thirdly Cape Verde, who have been the outstanding story, certainly in terms of African qualifying, but this being their first World Cup, I feel experience counts for something. So if you want to get a draw, or certainly you can handpick these, I think that's the easiest draw that the US could hope for, particularly on home soil, where I think they make easy work of this group.
All right, well, let's check out Shaka's nightmare draw now.
And again, like everybody else, I have Norway in there. I think Croatia, as technical a team as they are, will be a nightmare for the US. And then lastly, I decided to go with Ghana. And I understand the Italy argument, but they haven't qualified yet.
Right. That was kind of where I was thinking too.
So I've kind of stayed away from them. And then Ghana, as a pot 4 team, with, again, talking about experience at this tournament, talking about it being in the US and crowd support, I think Ghana will be as difficult a pot 4 team as you could hope for. Maybe the playoffs throws in another conundrum in there, but right now I think Ghana, of the pot 4 teams, is the one you most desperately want to avoid.
And Croatia's a team that's been semifinals at least in the last 2 editions. Very experienced players, very technical players. They are, and also a bite to them. They're like the Uruguay of Europe. And
That's Brazil.
And Norway, listen, I think that's a team that nobody wants to face. But Ghana is has constantly, to what Kasey has alluded to earlier, been a constant thorn on the side of the U.S. men's national team, and a team that, somewhere down the line you may face, and you're like, it's them again.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's going to happen now. The U.S. is going to get Norway.
And Ghana.
And Ghana. Everyone's been trying to avoid those two, but of course, that's exactly what's happened. All right, we're going to switch gears just a little bit now because we know that this is going to be an historic World Cup, an expanded World Cup. There's a ton of storylines heading into this World Cup, but if we move the USA perspective aside, guys, I want to know some of the top headlines or storylines heading into this World Cup that you guys have a keen interest in. Herc, let me start with you.
Well, we have to factor in that there are host countries along with the USA, I should say, and one of those host countries has been, I would say, a sleeping giant in football for quite some time at the national team level, and that is Mexico. Mexico has made out of the group phase 7 out of the 8 last World Cups. It should have been 8 for 8. They didn't get to go last go. But it's always been the same thing. They get out of the group phase. Unlike most countries, there's always been the hiccup. There was never a hiccup for them, but they would bow out immediately. They could never get to that el famoso quinto partido. Well, now they have to get to el sexto partido because there's one more game. So they got to get to that quarterfinal game that's eluded them. It's something that they've always stressed about. It's like it's some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Jinx.
Jinx, thank you. It's a jinx that they can't seem to fix. Mexico has the ability to do it. I don't know. Do they have the crowd support to do it? Will they have the path to do it? Absolutely.
Do they, though?
Yes, they do.
Because what was the conversation in the last friendly?
Because that's different. But I tell you from being at World Cups, the best fan bases are Mexican fan bases. I was at the Luzhniki Stadium. Oh, it's not Luzhniki. It was in Russia. The first game against Germany, with I believe 65,000 people in that stadium. 60 were Mexican. And the parade together, they'll have 2 different countries to be a home country in, and they'll have a clear path to get there. And they'll also have the altitude, the smog, they'll have the weather in their favor. We've seen at the Club World Cup some of these European teams complain about the weather, complain about the sun, complain about logistics, humidity. They'll have all that in their favor. I think the time is now. If they were ever to get to their sexto, el quinto partido, now sexto partido or beyond, it is now.
I agree with Herc there, but I'm just trying to get invited back to the Casa Mexicana because, I had a blast there last time in Qatar. Let me tell you that. All right, Kasey, what about you? What's the storyline that you have a keen interest in?
I'm interested to see with the extended field if there's going to be 5 or 6 teams that just get smashed in this tournament and take some big numbers. And
we're talking about 10-0s.
And well, maybe not quite that big, but big. And does that take away from the competition? I love the energy of, the excitement for countries qualifying and all that. But in the end, it's still a tournament to dictate who's the best footballing country in the world.
All right.
Is that what we're excited about? Are we excited about the idea of the best playing the best?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm worried about. I just don't want some teams just to be so
walloped,
not
lopsided,
up to the standard that it then becomes kind of farcical.
Can I add really quick to your expanded tournament? Records are going to be broken now, because you're going to have the opportunity to break. Imagine a Kylian Mbappe in a weekend group phase and what he can do. And then also, we saw it at the U17 World Cup. The best third places advanced. Mexico won 1 game of the U17 World Cup and advanced due to fair play. So you're going to see some teams with maybe only 3 points advance as the best third place in some wacky ways. So that's going to be something we're going to see in this expanded World Cup.
Which is what used to happen when it was a 24 team, but then you think that how condensed it was with 24,
Right.
that may be coming in as a third, but at this, it could be a bit diluted.
Yeah.
I would just hope Jamaica could get to that chance where we could afford to be walloped at the finals. But you know what? Let me not bring my trauma out now. Jeff, what about you? It's your job to find the biggest storylines for us. So which one is at the top of your list heading into this one? Of course, putting the USA's perspective aside.
Putting the USA's perspective aside, I'm curious to see if there really is a bona fide group of death. I mean, I know I put out the US's nightmare scenario earlier You know, what if you replaced the U.S. with Argentina and then had also Morocco and Norway and Italy? I mean, that would be every game would just be a bloodbath. And so I'm curious to see if that kind of scenario comes to pass. I'm also a little intrigued by the weather. I mean, we saw at the Copa America in 2024 and even the Club World Cup this past summer. There were issues with the heat. There were hydration breaks. And granted, I think more of these games are going to be played indoors, so that's going to mitigate the weather a little bit. But I am curious to see to what extent teams that, especially those that are not used to playing in extreme heat, how they cope with the conditions. I mean, that's always going to be, a unique challenge for some of those squads. I'm thinking especially of teams from Europe.
Weather delays too.
I was gonna say, like with you two, like how close was the weather up to being to your top storyline? Because after covering the Club World Cup this summer, that's literally all we talked about. We all turned into meteorologists.
Right, but one of the big issues is where Copa America wasn't quite as big of an issue because they weren't worried about telecasting on a time change back to Europe.
Right.
So there was a lot more night games or early evening games to night games because you're just going to Argentina or you're going to Brazil or whatever. But if, let's say, the U.S. is playing in Seattle and it just happens to be one of those weekends or weekdays in Seattle where it's high 80s in the summer as opposed to mid 70s, and you have to play at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon because you have a broadcast back in Europe, yeah, that's not ideal. But then imagine if you're in Houston or if you're, some of the areas that is just. Now I know to Jeff's point, some of the stadiums will be indoor, and yes, that will be a benefit for that, but there will be some weather-affected matches.
Club World Cup was only the East Coast. Now you're talking about the whole continent of the United States, Canada, and Mexico. It's rainy season in Guadalajara around the World Cup time. It could be an
Miami.
issue. And Miami.
And we know exactly.
Yeah, we know an afternoon thunderstorm in Miami.
Yes, exactly, indeed. Shaka, what about you?
I went for Kylian Mbappe versus Vinicius Jr.
Oh.
Truth be told, you could package this any which way you want. Brazil v France, Deschamps v Carlo Ancelotti. But I've kind of decided to settle on the two Real Madrid stars, all that they represent, the expectation around both countries. And while France have both won and lost a World Cup final, in the time since Brazil has last been to that stage of the competition, I think there's always a lot of expectation around Brazil and how far they go in the World Cup tournament. I'm not sure that this is a good Brazil team at all. Yeah. I kind of get the feeling that despite being able to boast Vinicius Jr. and Rafinha and Alisson and Rodrigo, that this may yet prove to be the worst Brazil team that I have seen in my lifetime. And put that up against a France who lost 4 years ago in penalties in the World Cup final, a Kylian Mbappe who has taken his claim as the heir in Madrid, Vinicius Jr., given everything that's going on with Xabi Alonso, with his contract, how does he plan to impose himself on this tournament? I just think that if these two meet up, that will be a heavyweight battle worth tuning in for.
Yeah, I feel like this is the first World Cup in a long time, and I know we can talk about the last World Cup, but the first World Cup in a long time that we're talking about Brazil going in there, and they don't necessarily have that fear factor that we're so used to.
Now, is that going to benefit them because everybody's kind of sleeping on them, and they're like kind of thinking, no, like Brazil, they're not been playing well, qualifying wasn't great, but is Ancelotti the guy that could possibly get a side that is not clicking to click at the right time? And I think they also need somebody, Shaka, who emerges.
Yes.
Who kind of, who everyone goes,
like an Estevao?
Yeah, where'd this guy come from? Well, maybe it's him, maybe it's somebody else.
Good point. That's a very good point.
You know?
But he's still quite young, don't you think, for that commanding presence that they need?
But it's not just, I was very pessimistic on Brazil, and some of their players are coming alive at the right time. You look at Rafinha and the transformation of Rafinha, Estevao, his emergence, the young Brazilians at Chelsea. You look at players who before weren't worth the time in Brazil are now kind of piquing interest. And you're starting to say, well, can Carlo Ancelotti, who's very much a man manager instead of a tactical manager, get these players going the right way? I I wouldn't be surprised if they made a run.
You see, no, this is where I disagree with you slightly here, because I think a lot of Brazil's success will come down to Carlo Ancelotti and how he does manage some of those talents. Because 2 years ago, you had both Vinicius Jr. and Rafinha on the shortlist for Ballon d'Or. I don't think
Rodrigo, he was top
and Rodrigo would debate that. Yet you see Brazil during that phase of World Cup qualifying at that time 2 years ago, and it screamed of a team that lacked direction, that lacked leadership, and lacked a big star.
Yeah.
And I thought Neymar was a miss. Now, kind of given his injury issues, I don't think Neymar will feature at all. Maybe 6 months proves me wrong, but as we sit right now, I don't see that happening at all. Now, maybe to your point, which I really like her, maybe Vinicius Jr. takes on that responsibility as the star, and that frees up an opportunity for an Estevao, given his talents, to kind of be that supporting player that really sparks Brazil and Carlo Ancelotti with his effect. Because I'm as big a fan of Carlo Ancelotti as any. But this is, at the same time, a very big ask. I will say, if anybody can get this right, I'm backing Carlo.
Are we
too.
worried about Brazil defensively?
Always.
And
What aren't we worried about?
And so that's the other side, I think, is can they come into it maybe without the expectation that they have to be the biggest entertainers in football? That maybe because the expectation isn't there, the fan base, the press, even the players buy into this idea of just being a little bit more pragmatic and just going and finding ways to win as opposed to being, the football geniuses. And we'll see.
I'm not sure that Brazil, I don't know if I'll say they're worse, but I don't think they're any better defensively than they were 4 years ago or 3 years ago as it is right now. I think another aspect of that is Alisson, who has established himself as one of the best goalkeepers in the world, and still to this day is. But what you've seen, certainly in the Liverpool shirt of late, is injuries are all of a sudden being more of a factor in Alisson's availability. I'm not convinced of Edison at this level. Okay. Edison, certainly in his time, was fantastic for Manchester City.
He did have some phenomenal years for Man City.
Passing the ball, taking these
But he
risks.
still was able to make some big saves.
But not as big, I think, that Brazil needs in this tournament.
Okay.
League football, you can take chances because it all comes out.
And when you're one of the best teams in the world at the time, it helps.
At a World Cup, you need somebody more like an Alisson, who's more solid, who's more orthodox, and just damn good at keeping the ball out of the net, which I'm not sure Edison has ever qualified as being.
Okay. Well, that's what happens when you get two goalkeepers at the desk. We end up talking about goalkeepers in Brazil.
You are.
But I heard a little birdie, and that might be Jeff, who says that he's freezing over there. He's ready to go to bed. I've never seen his neck this covered in my life. Jeff, is it straight to bed for you before we say goodbye?
Oh, no.
No, he's going to the bar.
I still got work to do.
Are you going to do that work?
Eventually.
Are you going to do that work and some writing in the bar?
No comment. No comment.
The Wi-Fi is good there. The Wi-Fi is really good in this bar.
Listen, I've done writing. I've seen Jeff write a story in about 15 minutes in a crowded, loud bar in Atlanta after the USA were slapped up by Panama. We all know when, and Jeff, he is a professional. Jeff Carlisle, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure we will catch up with you tomorrow again after the World Cup draw.
Will do.
All right, well, dealing with an ankle injury. You can see the long list of injuries he's had to deal with in his career. He only returned to action last week, playing almost an hour in Atleti's Champions League game against Inter Milan. So, Herc, looking at this now from the U.S. men's national team perspective, how much of a setback is this for him when we're talking about him eyeing a place in that World Cup roster?
He's not on the roster right now. You have to be available to be on a roster. He's not been available. And I love Johnny Cardoso, the Internacional footballer, the Real Betis footballer, the at times, when he played against Inter Milan, very good footballer. But that's not the Johnny Cardoso we see with the U.S. men's national team. And we can go back as far as you want with Johnny Cardoso and his history in the U.S. men's national team. When given the chance, he's not taking advantage of it. There was a couple summers ago, right before Copa America, They played against Colombia. Not his shining moment. Brazil, not his shining moment. This past summer, Switzerland, let's talk about the Turkey game. He brings the ball down in his own 6, tries playing with the outside of his foot across the face of goal, and I believe it was Arda Güler who ends up picking it off right back down their throat. It's a goal against your team. He just, for whatever reason, can't put together with the U.S. men's national team. And now it's one injury after another. I don't care where you play. If you're not available, it does the manager no good. In that time, while Johnny Cardoso of Atletico Madrid was trying to play at Atletico Madrid, Sebastian Berhalter has come about. Tanner Tessman has come about. Aiden Morris has got an opportunity. Christian Roldan has inserted himself into the conversation. If you're not available, it doesn't matter where you play. Others are going to take advantage of that situation. So does this put his roster spot in jeopardy? Sure, but what roster spot are we talking about? Because he is nowhere near that 11.
Kasey,
I think unfortunately for Johnny is, it's twofold, and Herc talked about it. One, injuries have hampered his recent times in being able to come in and change the misfortunes with the national team, where he was never able to truly build any kind of equity within the team itself. Because, look, if Johnny Cardoso had multiple national team tournaments, successes in Gold Cup, Copa America, whatever, take your pick, and now you're saying, oh, hey, he's got to get fit because look at all these last successes.
The equity.
Yeah, the equity. It's not there. Yeah. He needs to be playing week in and week out for Atletico Madrid to give him a chance to come in March and say, yes, I'm your guy. And it doesn't look like he's going to get that chance just because he keeps getting injured.
At the same time, you're talking about equity. You're talking about equity. Mauricio Pochettino has made it quite clear.
Yep.
Your past equity are good as yen in this camp.
Yeah.
So, to that point, you have to be available. You have to be there to show what you can do, to prove yourself to the head coach. Pochettino is what you can do, how you fit in, and how you contribute to this team. Because otherwise, I'm not sure what Johnny Cardoso has got to bank on.
Malik Tillman was a perfect example of somebody who didn't take advantage of his previous U.S. men's national team appearances. And you were like, well, yeah, I've seen him with Rangers, with PSV. He's shown me tons of glimpses. I could see him doing it in the Champions League. Why can't he do it with the national team? Until he did, until it clicked. And now he's built that equity with Mauricio Pochettino, which is the only person that equity actually counts for.
But then, unfortunately for him as well, was kind of injured at a bad time during these last couple windows where the U.S. started to play really well when he wasn't there. So now he's got to kind of go through rebuilding that as well.
Well, we have an interesting graphic here, Herc, and just speaking about equity, and if you are Mauricio Pochettino and you're looking at these numbers, this depth chart in terms of a holding mid role, what are you thinking here?
What am I thinking? I've seen this.
Who are your picks?
Who are my picks?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, I know who my picks are. I don't know who Mauricio Pochettino's picks are, and I know what the graphic tells me. And in all of those three, there is no Johnny Cardoso.
Yeah.
So that's what that tells me. That Johnny Cardoso right now is not in this pool of players. And if I had to pick the four, it would be Tyler Adams, because I know of Tyler Adams. It would be Tanner Tessman, because I really liked what Tanner Tessman did in between the boxes in the last couple of windows. And then I would go Sebastian Berhalter, Christian Roldan. I think those are the four players that have shown recently, as Mauricio Pochettino and the U.S. men's national team has shown us something, those four have shown us something.
And I think the other thing you got to look at when you look at those situations, you look at where can people help you if you get into a situation where this player goes down and that player goes down. Sebastian has shown his ability to contribute with his ability to take set pieces. Christian has had the ability to play in multiple positions, to be able to cover for people, to come in and do different roles. And you always kind of know as well that you're going to go into a World Cup. And is there still that hasn't been confirmed if it's a 23 or a 26?
26.
It is a 26-man squad, but I think you're only going to be able to suit 23. So whatever the situation is, and you're still going to have guys that are going to be good squad guys who might not be suiting, who might not feel they have a legitimate chance of even playing. And so there is some chemistry issues there as well, where you have to make sure somebody doesn't get upset if it doesn't quite go their way. And sometimes you pick guys that will be good squad guys as well.
Would he make your squad? Or who's your
Who?
4, as Herc was saying? Johnny.
No, I think right now, no. Look, if he gets fit and plays unbelievably for the rest of the season for Atletico Madrid, becomes an out-and-out starter, pushes out Koke, pushes out, Pablo Barrios.
He did push out Koke.
But that's what I'm saying.
That was part of the plan for
so
Cholo
then,
Simeone. Yeah.
So then, well, I call Atletico Madrid a lot, and I haven't called Johnny Cardoso.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. So then let's say he gets fit. This knee injury is nothing. This is just like
contusion.
It's a week or two.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. And then he has an unbelievable run till the March window. And Pochettino says, well, I can't ignore him.
Right.
He's an Atletico Madrid player. He's in Champions League. It's this. Atletico's doing great. Johnny's doing great. And then he comes in and has a phenomenal game.
Against the Portugals of the
Against
world.
the
The Germanys
Portugal,
of the
yeah.
world. Yes.
Then the conversation changes. But right now, it's, I mean, I think Herc hit the 4 who are available right now.
All right, well, with or without Johnny Cardoso, Atletico de Madrid must go on. And this time they have a tough trip all the way to San Mamés to play Athletic Club de Bilbao. This game is on Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. But we kick things off with our pre-show before the game, 30 minutes before on ESPN Deportes and ESPN+. Well, it's a big one in the MLS Cup this weekend as Inter Miami take on the Vancouver Whitecaps. Here's a look at the tail of the tape. Now, it's going to be a big night for both clubs, especially Vancouver. Some iconic names going at it in this one, including Luis Suarez, who caught up with Lizzie Becherano.
Sé que el partido del sábado no es ni tu primera final ni la primera final del equipo este año, pero sí el primer MLS Cup. ¿Cómo se está viviendo dentro del grupo? ¿Cómo se están preparando? ¿Y qué tal la emoción?
No, obviamente que uno trata de transmitir más que nada a los que no han tenido muchas posibilidades de jugar finales, pero este grupo ya jugó finales este año. No nos fue como queríamos, pero hay que tratar de afrontarlo de la mejor manera posible, con el factor campo que jugamos en casa, con jugadores que marcan la diferencia. Y bueno, llegamos en una buena dinámica de ritmo futbolísticamente que anímicamente en las finales se nota cuando un equipo llega bien, cuando el otro llega peor. Y bueno, en esta instancia creo que los dos equipos llegamos bien, pero nosotros también tenemos la moral allá arriba alta por los resultados que venimos consiguiendo.
Se vivió un poco el mismo equipo el año pasado bajo Tata Martino, pero no lograron llegar a la final. ¿Qué ha cambiado Mascherano, que entró como técnico con bastante crítica, poca experiencia como técnico de club y ahora ha revolucionado y creado historia con este equipo?
Bueno, creo que los desafíos son lindos. Era un lindo desafío para él, como primera experiencia fuera de lo que era Argentina. Lo tomó de la mejor manera posible, sabiendo las condiciones y la calidad de jugadores que tenía para dirigir. Y bueno, no es fácil también lidiar con esta clase de jugadores, tomar decisiones a veces no es fácil para ningún entrenador. Y bueno, salvando de que el año pasado con el Tata quedamos eliminados, en esta ocasión llegamos al tercer partido y lo pudimos pasar. Y bueno, después eso, como te dije, ¿no? Anímicamente te sube mucho la moral. Y bueno, un entrenador siempre está para corregir, para enseñar a los más jóvenes. Él fue muchos años jugador, él sabe lo que necesita el jugador y bueno, por suerte llegamos en un buen momento.
Él mismo te llamó a ti una inspiración fuera y dentro de la cancha por lo que eres con los jugadores, tus compañeros. Y obviamente se han venido decisiones interesantes por su parte. ¿Cómo vives tú esta última etapa de la temporada?
No, obviamente que uno siempre quiere jugar, siempre, me tocó la posibilidad en todos los lados que tuve casi siempre jugar, pero también hay a veces uno, con la madurez que tiene hoy en día, de entender la situación, de entender el motivo o de la planificación que espera el entrenador para para un partido como era el de Cincinnati, lo acepté, lo entendí sin ningún problema, la mejor de la sonda para transmitirle a los compañeros que los que fueran a entrar, que dieran el máximo, que después habíamos 7, 8, 9 esperando con la misma energía que ellos, pues somos un grupo, y bueno, después obviamente que uno quiere jugar más tiempo del que le toca jugar, pero es lo que toca, es entrenar, mejorar más y demostrarle al entrenador que uno puede jugar más de 10 minutos, más de 15 minutos como viene jugando, pero bueno, ya tocará ese momento.
Messi habló justamente de las emociones que vivió al recibir la noticia que Jordi Alba y Sergio Busquets se iban a retirar. ¿Qué se siente saber que el sábado puede ser su último juego juntos los cuatro?
La verdad que me entristece a mí, como ser compañero de él de muchos años, de ellos muchos años. Hoy justo lo veía a Jordi ahí y le pregunté cómo se sentía su última semana. Date cuenta que hoy pasó y es su último miércoles como profesional. Y el de Busi también, Busi se había ido, no le pude preguntar, pero son sensaciones de tristeza, pero son decisiones claras, tomadas con una decisión firme, que hay que respetarla, hay que entenderla. Obviamente que tenían condiciones los dos para muchísimos años más, porque son jugadores top los dos, y bueno, como compañero de ellos me entristece no poder tenerlos más, pero a su vez orgulloso yo de haber compartido con ellos muchísimos años, muchísimos partidos, grandes derrotas, grandes triunfos y trofeos que hemos ganado juntos, y bueno, hasta el día sábado disfrutarlos de la mejor manera, que creo que va a ser difícil de que la gente de Inter Miami vuelva a tener un lateral izquierdo así y un 5 así.
Ahora, viene el Mundial 2026, tu primero en muchos años como hincha. ¿Cómo lo estás viendo? ¿Estás nervioso? ¿Qué se siente ahora estar del lado de nosotros normales viendo los partidos de fútbol?
Bueno, la verdad que hay a veces que seguís teniendo esa adrenalina, ese nerviosismo de que, wow, puedo seguir estando ahí porque todavía puedo darle, pero hoy toca de cambiar ese chip, de verlo como un hincha, como un uruguayo más, deseándole lo mejor a mi país, que le vaya primero bien en el sorteo, que los cruces después sean buenos y que trate de llegar lo más lejos posible, porque Uruguay tiene condiciones, tiene jugadores suficientes de sobra, hay que sacarle lo mejor de ellos, que son grandísimas personas y bueno, lo tienen que demostrar ahí. Estoy muy seguro que van a representar a Uruguay de la mejor manera posible, siempre y cuando se le dé todo eso que ellos necesitan, ¿no?
Y por último, ¿cuáles son los botines que más han marcado tu vida? ¿Será por un momento, un diseño en particular? ¿Cuáles son?
Bueno, creo que hay muchos botines, ¿no? Pero los Pumas, que no me acuerdo en este momento de qué colores eran, pero los que hice un hat-trick en el 2018, después que nació mi hijo, era uno de los primeros zapatos Puma que usaba y le hice 3 goles al Madrid. Fueron esos botines que los recuerdo mucho. Después hubo el de los 500 goles que hice en el Atlético Madrid, que Puma me hizo unos zapatos especiales. Y bueno, los de estos van a ser especiales porque nunca se sabe cuándo puede ser una última final que pueda jugar con unos botines que te sientan cómodos y bueno, tratar de disfrutarlos a estos últimos también.
All right, interesting words there from Luis Suarez. A lot of emotion ahead of this MLS Cup battle. He touched on the fact that we know that his minutes have been diminished, especially in the playoffs. He did say that, he's just hoping that moment comes where he can prove that he can play more than just 10, 15 minutes, which is what he's been playing now. But Herc, do you think he has more in him in terms of, should he just, I suppose, accept being used as a super sub? I mean, it's not that bad to bring a Luis Suarez off your bench, right?
Well, it's not that bad unless you're Luis Suarez.
Yeah.
Unless you're one of the
But
most
surely
talented.
at his age, it must start sinking in.
He's one of the most talented, if not the most talented striker of his generation. It's a tough, bitter pill to swallow for any footballer, let alone a footballer who comes down various levels to finish out his career. He's got to be thinking, I'm going to play until the wheels fall off, literally. And it's not just any manager that he has that can be the bad guy. It's one of his best friends. This core group of personalities, Lionel Messi, Sergio Busquets, Jordi Alba, Luis Suarez, and Javier Mascherano, they're all friends, which adds an extra layer or wrinkle to this that I don't think he expected. He never expected to be the substitute, but the way right now that Inter Miami is playing, he played 8 minutes last game. And I'm sure for a player of that caliber, it doesn't sit well. I don't think he's gonna enjoy being a substitute in this final, let alone if he continues next year. So I don't think he'd be fine with it. Luis Suarez for sure envisioned something else, but I will stress on Javier Mascherano being the coach and how that adds an extra layer of maybe pressure to all this.
But I also don't think Suarez is going to be a distraction either. I think because of everything you just mentioned and the friendships involved, he won't, yes, disappointed, 100%. Of
course.
I think, but I don't think that'll carry over into being a problem.
He won't be sulking on the bench.
So maybe a little bit. I mean, I don't want to play. I don't
Slight
want
distraction.
in the
You should not be happy if you're on the bench. Yes.
But was a player up front that nobody worked harder.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, because we've seen what Messi's become. Is the guy that picks and chooses his moments to do something that nobody else can do. Suarez had so much of his success from outworking defenders, from finding spaces, from battling, and sometimes your body just says, I just can't do that anymore. And so if it means, can he do it for 10 minutes? But we've also seen those numbers didn't lie. I mean, he's hit a wall.
Yeah.
And now, does he go the route like Alba and Busquets and say, you know what, if they win the championship, to be able to say, you know what, this was pretty special.
I think to use Herc's phrasing, the wheels have fallen off.
Yeah.
And you can make the argument they were wobbling for quite some time.
Yeah.
I think the thing with Luis Suarez is he is such a good finisher.
Yes.
So that even though, Sergio Busquets never, he could sit in the middle of the park and dictate a game. Jordi Alba will run all day long. Both those players have already said this is their last season. I think Luis Suarez can't cover the ground that he once did, can't outwork defenders that he once did. But the one thing he's never lost is his finishing ability. And in those moments where he does find time, he does find half a yard of space, he will bury it. But unfortunately, if he's asked to play from the start, when players are fresh, he will tire quicker than those around him. And then those opportunities don't come. Whereas you introduce him late on, he's a little bit fresher, everybody's a little bit more tired, he gets that half a yard, and now all of a sudden you see exactly why he was as good, as generational a talent as he was. So I don't see Luis Suarez playing from the start. I see him as being that impact sub later on.
I think there was also an issue with Suarez playing against some of the worst teams in MLS and still finding the spaces, to Shaka's point, where he could just use his finishing ability. Now, as you move into the better teams that are better organized defensively, those spaces aren't as available as they were in the league.
Let me also say, and we've all been there, and I'm sure I speak for
Except me.
for both of you. Admitting to yourself
That's what it is, Shaq. Yeah.
that your time has come is the hardest thing any football player will do. And it doesn't matter if you have been as good as Luis Suarez, if you've won as much as Luis Suarez. If you've played this game for a living, when that time comes, you are the last person to admit as much.
Yeah.
Or even harder to admit before that time comes.
Yeah.
So then you don't have to answer these questions of, should you retire last year?
Well, I think it just makes him second guess himself because, as you said, the wheels have fallen off. The wheels fell off. A wheel fell off in Brazil, where he was taking painkillers every single day, and he said, "I'm done." He told the Brazilian press, I'm done. I'm not going to play more because of the pain." And he scored 20-plus goals in Brazil. So he thinks to himself, even on one leg, I still have this. That is a bitter pill to swallow when you realize that's not the case anymore.
Well, it's funny that he said that he, of course, wanted to play more minutes, but you can tell he's coming to that realization because in that final answer there, he was talking about how these boots could be very special because he's had to consider the fact that it could be the last time he's lacing them up in a big game such as this one or just any game at all. Do you think, Kasey, this will be his last game?
I do. I think, particularly if they win. You know, I think the only thing that might change is there a scenario where he kind of joins the coaching staff, kind of still is a player to play limited minutes?
Player coach vibes?
Yeah, unlikely. More likely that they win, maybe he comes off the bench, scores a goal, and then says, you know what, this is a heck of a way to go out.
Listen, Tadeo Allende, who's right now has 8 goals in this postseason. He's already tied Carlos Ruiz for 2002 most goals in a postseason. He didn't train today. He's in doubt. Well, what a storyline it would be for Luis Suarez if Tadeo Allende couldn't go to come on the field, make something happen, and potentially say, that's it for me.
Shaka, his last game? You think it's time?
It's time. Listen, and again, I don't mean to say that and belittle Luis Suarez in any way.
Yeah.
Again, a generational talent.
Yeah.
And you see that whenever he's given the opportunity. But Father Time catches up with us all. And again,
undefeated.
Father Time will be streaking away in the distance, and we'll say, no, we can still we'll catch him. I'm not. So I don't mean to be at all belittling to, again, one of the best strikers that I have seen with my own 2 eyes. And I say that unreservedly. But I think a great way to go out is, as the guys have mentioned, you win this thing and you just go off in an absolute high. But I also say that in recognizing that, as romantic as that is, how understanding my own journey in saying, listen, my time has come, even going out on a high, easier said than done.
All right, well, there's been a lot of storylines heading into this game. A lot of them about Inter Miami for obvious reasons. But Vancouver, listen, they can put up a spoiler, as our Ale Moreno talked about, that he may be fancying them in this one in the show earlier on this week. So, Kasey, let's get some predictions. I'm going to start with you. How do you see this going?
I think 2-1 Miami, personally. I just think home, the factors of players already saying they're going to be done. The long trip for Vancouver. I don't know. I just don't think Miami can mess this up.
Herc, we talked. Well, actually, let me save you for last. Let me get Shaka.
Oh, I think this is into Miami all the way. I go 3-0 Miami. I am
3-0?
Yeah.
Gasps in Thomas Muller.
I am that confident that I put my mortgage on Inter Miami.
Oh.
And if they don't win, I can move in with Ali Moreno.
Yeah. I think Ale was leaning towards Vancouver. Herc, what about you? We, of course, talked about this on Monday's show, and I know you seemed kind of torn. So are you making a case for Vancouver?
I am. I'm making a big case for Vancouver.
I'm moving with you then.
There you go. More room at the end.
He's got a massive house. So
I just think styles make fights, and this is a bad style for Miami to fight against. This is a team that recovers the ball up high. They provoke individual errors, and if you saw Inter Miami versus New York City FC, there were individual errors that they didn't get punished for. I do think Vancouver, Ahmed, with Sabi on the outside, with Brian White, Thomas Mueller, Cubas, who's very good, Sebastian Berhalter, who's on a high right now, the confidence he must be feeling. Jasper Sorensen's a very good coach. I think this team ran over them in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I think they have the ability to run over them again, but Miami's got too much firepower, so Miami's going to have their say in this. But I do think Vancouver come out on top in this one.
All right.
Bueno, gracias por la onda y el respeto siempre. Otra vez una final.
Sí, la verdad que sí, que feliz, ¿no? Porque es especial también jugar una final en este club. Si bien ya ganamos un título, jugamos otra final hace poquito del club de nuevo, por decirlo de alguna manera, y ya poder jugar una final de la MLS con todo eso lo que significa para el club es espectacular, así que contento.
¿Vos tenés idea de cuántas finales jugaste ya?
No, la verdad que no.
Vas por la final número 43. El otro día leí, es el máximo asistidor de la historia del fútbol. Es el máximo ganador a nivel club de la historia del fútbol. O sea, sos un animal.
No, bueno, la verdad que sí, que siempre, siempre lo hemos hablado en la mayoría de las notas, ¿no? Soy competitivo, me gusta ganar y intentarlo. En el medio hemos tenido racha mala o momentos duros, pero bueno, siempre lo intentamos, nos volvimos a levantar y en búsqueda de lo mejor siempre.
¿Hay un secreto para estar siempre apuntando más? Porque vos tenés una mentalidad que para adelante y vamos por otro objetivo. ¿Tenés un secreto o no te das cuenta y vos vas?
No me doy cuenta y muchas de las cosas que me pasaron y que viví me doy cuenta ahora o le doy el valor ahora, ¿no? Cuando está enfocado y metido en el día a día es muy difícil. Toda mi carrera jugué cada 3 días, siempre partido importante, peleando por objetivos importantes y ganábamos uno y al mes, a la semana teníamos otro o arrancaba el año y tenía que volver a ganar todo. Tenía la exigencia esa también de estar en un club grande como es el Barcelona. En el París pasaba lo mismo, en la selección argentina, que siempre tenés que ir a ganar e intentar de conseguir el objetivo. Obviamente la mayoría de las veces no se consigue o es muy difícil, pero desde un principio ir a ganar todo y el día a día te lleva a no disfrutar las cosas. La ganaste, sí, festejada, está buenísimo, pero mañana ya tenés que pensar en lo que viene. Es más importante siempre lo que viene a lo que pasó, y hoy con el tiempo va valorando mucho más las cosas, y creo que pasa con todo, así que es normal también, ¿no? A medida que se va alejando y lo va viendo desde lejos y va pasando el tiempo, se le va dando más importancia a las cosas.
¿La del sábado ya la analizaste o todavía no la pensaste? ¿La ves bien? ¿Qué imaginas?
No, sí, ya la empezamos a trabajar, a estudiar el rival, a ver videos con match, a ser táctico, pero la verdad que nos agarra bien porque llevamos en un momento muy bueno. El equipo está firme, está con confianza, está ilusionado. Y la verdad que jugar de local es un plus también, ¿no? Nosotros acá de local durante el año, si bien tuvimos momentos del año que fuimos muy irregulares y nos costaba ganar partidos seguidos, acá de local creo que siempre hicimos diferencia, nos hicimos fuerte y bueno, tenemos que aprovechar también.
Se viene el 2026, hay un mundial, ni más ni menos. Hace un rato me escribió un amigo y me decía, mira, estoy para sacar los pasajes, pero preguntale a Messi si juega. ¿Qué le digo? ¿Le digo que le dé para adelante? ¿Que saque los pasajes o que espere?
Y todavía no sabemos para dónde.
No, él me dice,
el sorteo
saco
primero.
hotel y avión a Estados Unidos, ¿qué hago?
No, bueno, yo lo digo y lo repito y una realidad también. Nosotros nos agarran un momento de temporada donde es totalmente diferente al europeo, a la diferente liga, y vamos a empezar una pretemporada de enero y de febrero a mayo tenemos un montón de partidos en el medio de la Conca Champions, la liga, y jugamos seguido y espero hacer una pretemporada. Obviamente es una pretemporada para prepararme, para estar bien para eso y para el día a día, pero como dije, voy a ir día a día y siendo sincero y intentando de ser realista y sentirme bien. Este año la verdad que me sentí muy bien, tuve la suerte de jugar muchísimos partidos y por ahí se habla de la liga, y la liga es una liga muy física donde los rivales crecieron muchísimo, muchos viajes largos, partidos que se rompen mucho de ida y vuelta, y yo la verdad que me sentí bien y lo disfruté, y ojalá el principio del año que viene sea de esta manera también.
¿Qué tiene Scaloni que los tiene así tan firme a todos? Porque ni siquiera lo digo del látigo, pero si no, los tiene todos recontra motivados.
Sí, yo creo que el primer día él bajó una línea, marcó una idea, y lo mejor que hizo más allá de todo lo que sabe de fútbol, de cómo lo vive, de cómo plantea los partidos, de cómo trabaja, de la cercanía que tiene con el grupo, de la manera de tratar a los jugadores, de saber llegarle a cada uno de una manera. Eso también es porque él lo conoce humanamente y sabe cómo hablarle a cada uno. Y y porque también fue formando él todo esto, ¿no? Y trayendo jugadores nuevos, jugadores que por ahí no eran conocidos para Argentina, y sea donde sea que estén jugando, él lo tiene en cuenta y los trae, y creo que eso los tiene a todos los jugadores argentinos mentalizados, que en cualquier momento pueden estar haciendo las cosas bien en el club que esté, que le toque estar, el que sea, y es una motivación extra. Creo que bueno, que fue Scaloni que consiguió todo eso.
Si te convoca para el Mundial que viene, ¿estás?
No, con él también lo venimos hablando y él me viene...
Este debe estar insistiendo, ¿no?
No, él entiende también y lo hablamos mucho, no es de
Claro,
ahora, sino
claro.
ya de hace tiempo que lo venimos hablando, y él siempre me dice que por él le gustaría que esté, del lugar que me toque o que sea, y nada, como te dije antes, tenemos una relación de mucha confianza donde nos podemos decir las cosas y hablamos de todo.
¿Se puede repetir lo de Qatar? ¿Se puede volver a dar?
Sí, yo creo que es, como hablábamos antes de la selección, es un grupo que lo va a volver a intentar, que va a dejar todo y que va a pelear, ¿no? Después, por pequeño detalle puede quedar afuera. Un mundial es muy difícil, cualquier selección te puede complicar, te puede dejar afuera, puede pegar en el palo y salir, pegar en el palo y te entra o quedaste eliminado, o perdés unos penales, que nosotros en la última tuvimos la suerte de si bien en el partido fuimos muy superiores tanto en Holanda como Francia, terminamos yendo a los penales, y después tuvimos la bestia del Dibu que nos hizo ganar, pero puede ser que llegue a unos penales y no ganar. Es muy difícil conseguir un mundial, ¿no? Por eso lo quiere todo el mundo, y se vive de una manera diferente como jugador, como espectador y como hincha. Pero no tengo duda que como veo el grupo, va a pelear seguro. Va a pelear. Como te dije antes, el hecho de haber ganado el último creo que le saca un peso a todo el país, ¿no? Porque lo necesitábamos, hacía muchísimo tiempo que no éramos campeones después de la última vez, y ir a jugar sin esa mochila también creo que es un alivio, pero que al mismo tiempo no te da nada, ¿no? Pues puedes tener que ir a jugar y que te salgan las cosas y ganar, y creo que cuando uno viene de ganar es mucho más difícil también, porque el rival, si siempre le quisieron ganar a Argentina, ahora después de ser el último campeón del mundo, mucho más también. Hay selecciones muy buenas, como España, Francia otra vez, Inglaterra, Brasil, que también hacen tiempo que no son campeones y que quieren ser campeones, Alemania. Es muy difícil, pero que va a pelear, no tengo duda.
¿Lo vas a ver por la tele? No.
Ojalá pueda estar, yo lo dije, me encantaría estar y...
No te veo viéndolo por tele. Yo te conozco hace 20 años, no te veo viéndolo por televisión.
No, de última estaré ahí viéndolo en vivo. Pero sí, va a ser especial, obviamente. El Mundial es siempre especial para todo, y es un clima diferente para cualquier país, sobre todo para nosotros que lo vivimos de manera diferente a cualquiera.
All right, the legend that is Leo Messi there. He said, at worst, I will be watching the World Cup. And either way, he said that's still going to be a special thing because, of course, it is the global tournament that we all wait for in world football. But what do you guys think? Where will he be watching it?
I think he'll be playing, personally. I think he'll be there. I think a lot of it is just, again, we just got done with this conversation with Suarez. And at a different level, Messi still wants to be able to make sure that he can compete at the level that is expected of him and what that role is. And I think if you're looking around April, or even those friendlies in March, end of March, and he's fit and feeling good, yeah, I think he'll be a part of it.
Mark, do you see it that way too?
Yeah, but I think he's just being honest in his assessment of what he's felt over the last few years and playing in Major League Soccer. He used the calendar as an example, we're not on the European calendar. There are going to be teams, players who are already in rhythm. I'm going to be off for a few months. Let's see how my body reacts to it. He's done this before, and it's taken him a bit to catch up to speed, and then he gets injured because of it. So I think he's being very cautious with it, and I think it comes with the territory. He's always been one of these players that's been very open. It's black and white. I don't want to say he is foreshadowing maybe a different avenue of his playing time, but he's saying, look, 6 months is a long time. I'm getting older. I need to see how I feel.
Shaka, can his body realistically handle this?
Yeah, I don't think, for me, I don't think there's any doubt that Lionel Messi plays in the World Cup next summer. And listen, I get it. Well, the old cliche among footballers is you never say you're starting, you never say you're playing, because truly that decision is not up to you. And that was for mere mortals. No.
Messi's not a mere mortal.
Exactly. I'm still not convinced that Lionel Messi is a mere mortal. But he is still going by that same playbook, even for him, that he's not saying, yep, I'm going to play. This, I'm picking myself now. I feel he gets through the season, he has a long break, and then I just wonder if the way the US season is structured, in that you get this long break over the new year, you start back training in February, league gets going in March, and you wonder if he goes, if that serves him better in that shortened 2 or 3 month lead up to the World Cup, as opposed to those who are playing in Europe, playing all year round, and at the end of the season, you're coming into the tournament. I feel it plays better into Lionel Messi, certainly at this stage of his career, and he's the better for it.
To have 10 matches or so, maybe some time with the national team in March and some friendlies, as opposed to just coming off 60 matches in Europe, having the pressure of being at a Barcelona or a PSG, expected to get into, if not the late rounds, if not winning the Champions League as well. You're supposed to be at the clubs you're at, winning your domestic cup competitions as well. And there's a guy that never missed a game. Yeah. There's a guy that didn't take breaks. Yeah. He heard him in the interview. I expected to play every 3 days. And to now, at this stage, to be able to say, I can rest, and I'm building towards this, as opposed to monitoring my minutes going into the World Cup. So I think it helps him dramatically.
I just think it's wild that we see 2 superstars and the narrative is going to be different. You see Cristiano Ronaldo in Portugal, and the narrative out of one side, a big portion of the population is he shouldn't play because he makes Portugal worse. And then we see a similar situation in terms of an older footballer who is the idol of that country, and it couldn't be further from the truth on this side. It's like, no, he has to play. He's going to play. Nobody's going to take him out of there. He's going to be a starter, full in, full out. It's just wild to me that these narratives can be so far apart.
Wasn't Ronaldo still Portugal's leading goal scorer in qualifying?
He was.
Yeah.
And so was Messi.
Yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, I mean, just hearing you guys speak, of course, about Messi and the fact that this going into this World Cup will probably be a bit different for him now. Even though by his own admission, he's already admitting that he probably won't go into the World Cup if he does in peak Messi form in terms of having played on the European calendar. But Argentina still have enough to build around and probably still win without a peak Messi?
Without question. And I thought that's where Argentina actually got better during the World Cup in 2022. Now, you could make the argument that 3 years ago, this wasn't Messi at his absolute best, at Messi's absolute peak. What I felt you saw during the course of that tournament, and remember they lost the first game to Saudi Arabia, I think when you make those comparisons to an Argentina in tournaments previously where they stumbled at the final hurdle, a lot more was expected of Messi. It was almost as though 10 of us have to just stand back, give Messi the ball, and wait for him to do the rest. And you could almost make that argument, that's what happened against Saudi Arabia. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, coming out of that defeat, everybody started to play their role. Everybody started to understand their importance to the team. And that's when Messi was at his best. Certainly that's when Argentina was at its best. And that's what you saw. That was an evolution you saw over the course of 90 minutes, or that time in between Saudi Arabia and I can't remember who their second game was. And that's Mexico. When Mexico. And so now if you can get that again, because on paper Argentina has always been incredibly talented. Yeah. Now if you get those players playing to their strengths, and allow Messi to be the icing on the cake, this is a very good Argentina team.
It's just the lines, the margins for error are so slim, so thin at a World Cup that you lose to Saudi Arabia, you win a must-win game against Mexico. Against Poland, it was close till the it wasn't a handball, it was a penalty kick that Chesney gives up, and then they get going. The next round, you're facing against an Australia that could have technically knocked you out.
Yep.
You know, like Australia had their chances. Lisandro Martinez clears a ball off the line, and they diamond into this game. They suffered versus Australia. You go off on penalty kicks against the Netherlands. You beat Croatia, and very well, probably peak Messi on that play with Guardiola down the left-hand side. And you beat France in penalty kicks. You could have lost penalty kicks against Netherlands. It's just so slim. And Kasey will tell you, because he's been in this situation before. To date, the most successful World Cup for the U.S. men's national team in the modern history is the 2002 quarterfinal run. Kasey, refresh my memory. You guys surprised the world against Portugal.
Yep.
Tied the host country against Korea.
Yep.
South Korea.
Got beat badly.
Against Poland,
By
you're out of the
Poland?
World Cup. So who puts you back into the World
So
Cup?
basically what had happened was stoppage time. Portugal and had got some players sent off stupidly. Playing the host country, Korea. Korea did not need to score. It's a draw. Both Portugal and Korea are going through. And because Korea is the home country, they push, score a late goal, which puts us in. And because of all those scenarios, we then get to play Mexico instead of Italy in the next knockout stage, who we've had a ton of success against. So, and Messi, I think, said that very well.
Yeah.
He said, can you win another World Cup? Well, there's a lot of things that come into play. There's this, there's these games, there's these draws. I need my goalkeeper to come up big in some penalties. And the post can make a difference, all that kind of stuff. And so I think what you really want to do, and I think what he alluded to, if you're a big team, you just have to go be competitive and go give yourself an opportunity to win it. And I feel like a Messi doing well, Messi in a good frame of mind will have the best chance to help Argentina repeat.
All right, well, Messi definitely will be focusing on that MLS Cup, but I'm sure he'll also have an eye on this game. His beloved Barcelona, they're looking to put more daylight in between them and Real Madrid in the La Liga table. They're going to travel to Sevilla to face Real Betis this Saturday. 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time is kickoff. You know where. All right, well, that brings us to the end of our show. Less than 24 hours away now for that World Cup draw. And because it's such a big week, we're going to be right back here tomorrow. That's right, a special edition of Futbol Americas. We're going to be reacting to the groups, especially for the U.S. men's national team, as well as Mexico and Canada. So you want to join us.
We'll see who gets Norway.
See you tomorrow, guys. You're going to get Norway. Virgil's terrified.